Welcome, everyone. This is our second annual virtual art show, and I want to thank all of you for being here for this live event. I'm Libby Kennard with Parkinson's Resources of Oregon, and I first want to thank our sponsors, AbbVie, Boston Scientific, Providence Brain and Spine Institute, Supernus Pharmaceuticals, Synovian, and Amneal. And then I want to thank everyone who helped create this show and make it possible. We have 5 artists with us here today, and you received via email this document that gives you a little bit more biographical information about them and contact information if they wanted to include that. And it's also the order that we'll be going in. And we are going to give them as much time as possible to show you the pieces that they've included. And so I'm going to jump right in. When we've gone through all 5 artists, that's when we'll have time to unmute and applaud everyone and then have some comments, and you'll be able to ask questions and comments to the artists. So our first artist that we have today is Tim Boyden. So Tim, if you'll unmute. His designs are rustic and whimsical. And so Tim, let's take a closer look.
Thanks, Libby. I appreciate all of you guys putting this together. And thanks everybody for showing up virtually. I think I'd start with my Parkinson's journey is pretty new to me. It was just a year and a half ago that I got diagnosed. So I'm still kind of tippy-toeing into all of this, but I'm feeling extremely grateful that at the moment I'm still able to do my work. It definitely has slowed me down a bit, which probably was a gift, actually. I tended to plow forward too quickly. I'm thinking this is going to give me a little better balance, having to take some time off here and there. Well, I'm going to hop right into the art. We're looking at a close-up of a piece that's called Yin and Yang. And the first thing I would say is it's a commission piece. And one of my signatures of my work over the last 25 years is the inlaid ocean stones in different patterns. If we could go on to the full picture, Libby. There's the yin and yang. It was definitely a challenging piece. You can imagine bringing 2 curves together without any gaps anywhere. It has to be pretty exact. So I was pretty proud. I remember at that moment when that got finished. A few years later, somebody saw it in my portfolio and I created another one for another family. So it is a pretty good living doing what you passionately love and having people excited when you do art. Let's see the next one, Libby. There we go. Of late, I'm doing a lot more sculptural pieces after having worked with a friend of mine who does a lot of sculpture. He kind of got me in this direction. This piece sold pretty quickly. I tend to use a lot of natural materials from nature. Driftwood is a big part of it, and repurposed human discards as well, trying to keep things out of the landfill and repurpose them into art instead. Ravens have definitely always been high on my list of creatures. Next, please. This piece is called Coming Together, kind of villages coming from opposing places, and it's tended to show them coming together and meeting in the middle, something I wish we'd do a little bit of right now in our country. This was also a piece. After getting diagnosed, the following year, I set up a collaborative show with 3 of the other artists that I really adored their work of. And we had a month-long show at Maud Kearns Art Center in Eugene. This is one of the pieces from that show, and it sold. It's a sliced through a double tree maple burl with lots of ocean stones. This is another piece from that same show. It's called Flutterby. It's a highly figured kind of book matched piece of myrtle wood, which, you know, is just incredible. The only outer part that has got cut was where they meet in the middle. I squared it off. The rest was nature's shape as it came to me. So I kind of feel like it was cheating a little bit. It was already done when I picked it up, but I think it turned out pretty nice. It is still for sale. And I should say, usually this time of year, I would be having a studio sale at my house, but due to COVID and the new variants swirling around, I really don't wish to have that many people at one time. So I'm open by appointment all the time. So if you're local, email or telephone me and we'll set up an appointment.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, our next artist.
You bet, Libby. Thank you.
Great. Our next artist is Veronica Friesen. She goes by Rana, and she uses embroidery and felt applique to create some really playful pieces. So Rana, we are ready for you.
Thank you. I am very thankful, like Tim, to be able to be a part of this. And on my first slide is, let's see.
Do you want me to go to the next slide?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay,
yes,
sorry.
Sorry. The first slide was actually, it's kind of humorous. I had to do this really quick because the one big piece I wanted done for this disappeared somewhere between here and the craft store and getting it framed. So this one was done quickly, but since I love dogs, it was a labor of love as well. And we just lost one. So this was really special for me. Just reminds me of my grandparents' dog, actually. They had 3 dogs that were labs, and they were all named Toots. Toots 1, Toots 2, and Toots 3. And so this is a little bit of Toots from growing up out in, let's see, on the peninsula of Washington State. And this one is it's all felt except for the flowers. That's the only part that's embroidered. So it's just basically tacking down the little bits of felt. The next slide. These, I came up with the title Hope because these I made out of little bits of felt for the donors that I had. I kind of went, because they take me a little while, I went for the highest donors that were part of the Soul Support, received these little birds that I created just to say thank you. So, and next slide. This is the underside of the same bird, my little Hope. So they're usually embroidered under the wings, on the wings, and underneath as well. Next slide. These, you're going to see that I kind of like birds and animals, but these are my ravens as well. I did not know Tim had ravens as well, but these are ones that I discovered, and they, funny thing, they remind me of my dad. So they're just little birds that I have sitting around that I made the first set for my dad. So because of back when we were little kids, he had this little poem about little blackbirds. So those are my little blackbirds, my little ravens that I have sitting around just to remind me of my dad, and he has 2 as well. So thank you very much for everything. But anybody needs to contact me, it's just through my email. And I am just so thankful to be a part.
Thank you, Rana. And we're glad that you were a part of it. I'm glad that you replied to my request. Okay, the next artist we meet is Benjamin Pruitt. And the pieces he's sharing today are acrylic and oil. And as you can see here, they're really colorful.
Yeah. So hi, everyone. And firstly, thank you for having me and letting me be a part of this. It's kind of an amazing thing to be here back with Pro, a decade plus after my diagnosis, and that it's a great way to start this slide and a continuing theme of hope. And I think everyone with Parkinson's and those associated with us would agree. Hope is kind of a foundational thing. I hope for a better day, I hope for a good day, I hope for a cure, and hope always stay as strong and positive as we can, which will bring us to the next slide if we could. This is, you'll have to pardon me, it's actually close to my med time, so I'm a little funny. This is hope, this is the big picture. And I think it's something that just is intertwined with everything we do every day. And my work is abstract expressionism, highly textural, very colorful, and hopefully inspires everyone to continue on and enjoying life. Which brings us to the next slide. Yeah, there we go. I have done many of these paintings of this theme, and this is Angels and Demons. Very large. It's hard to tell from the slide, but it's over 5 feet tall and 4 feet wide, and probably 75 pounds. And I have been blessed by the Parkinson's community and the artists around the world, really, to been able to exhibit and have my art in a lot of ways. And this is a piece that is near and dear to me to this day. And it's Angels and Demons, and something that we all fight with every day of our lives, no matter Parkinson's or cancer or just regular life, and this piece reminds us that we're all human, and regardless of our differences, there are similarities, and we're great. So let's continue forward, please. Oh yeah, cool. So ribbons. I wish I hadn't sold this piece. I wish I could show everyone this piece in real life. It's of those of you who are familiar with my work, and those of you who are not, I'm a big believer in the strands of life and fate, and this piece is ribbons. It's everything that we all are, anyhow, if we can forward to the next slide, if there is another one, I can't remember. Who knows? Oh yeah, great. This piece, foundational to me as a human being, regardless of Parkinson's, although it is brought to you by Parkinson's, literally. This piece is called Depth of Woman, and it is part of a collection that a patron of mine in the East Coast has. And I have a great deal of respect for the female humans. I mean, what can I say? I was raised by my grandparents predominantly, and grandmothers, many of them. This piece just speaks to that. I think the title within itself. But there we go. I think there's another slide.
No, that's it.
Let's see. Is that it? Well, then
That
I
was
would
your
have to
last one.
say, thank you. I'm not sure if my current contact stuff made it in. If not, a lot of you know where to find me on my Instagram or, Google it. And I have a new website and more paintings coming. So stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ben. Okay, next we move to Judith Lynn. She's been immersed in creative pursuits in many ways, and today she shares her most recent quilts. We're ready for you, Judith. I can't see anyone else, so I don't.
I'm here. I
Very
forgot to mute.
Okay,
Thank you for having me. I'm really pleased to be here. I was preparing for this a couple days ago, and this poem came up on my server, and it's by Steve Trenum. It's called C4. When initially given the score for The Rite of Spring, Pierre Monteux's first chair bassoonist told Stravinsky, "This can't be played." The maestro replied, "I wrote it, you will play it." Stravinsky had composed the first 8 bars in such a high register to get a raw, earthy sound, and when the musician succeeded in playing it beautifully, Stravinsky wished he'd written his solo a minor third higher. Perfection isn't the answer to great art. The first C4 note is a flower breaking through the earth and unfurling into spring. The orchestra as a whole is a prelude to the fear of nature, the whole earth cracking before the arising of beauty. Life does not have to make normal harmonic sense. Break out of what binds you, play the impossible note. That, to me, sums up basically what quilting has helped me in all of art. I was trained in classical music. I was performed classical. I was trained in bel canto, which means beautiful singing. And in the classical musical world, there's a very high bar for doing whatever you're doing perfectly. Perfection is the major moving piece of that, of any art, classical art performance. And so Parkinson's has been all about dismantling that stuff for me. I've had to just let go to what is. There's a constant practice of letting go and finding something deeper to hold on to. And what I found was I was in Hawaii when I was first having symptoms, and I noticed that how the plant, there's such a strong call for the life force to come forward and move and create. And so this picture is sort of a symbol of what art is to me. Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Very good.
So what I can you bring up the first slide?
Mhm.
So I came back from Hawaii. I was diagnosed. Let's see. I've been dealing with Parkinson's for about 15 years. That I can maybe even before, and it's been an up and down journey, of course. And so I came back. I still was teaching, traveling a lot and doing tours, teaching about about the voice and all the ways that the voice can work for us. I taught using the voice for sound healing as well. And so I was doing that stuff. And at a certain point, I discovered that it was really hard for me to show up and commit to a time that I could be there and hold the energy. So I started to have to cancel things out. And at the same time, there was a call. I was having grandchildren, and there was a call to make to our tradition in the family is that there's quilting in the family, and the tradition was to make a quilt for the family. So this is the first quilt that I made for my granddaughter. That what I found was that in the old days, the quilting was I studied some quilting when I first was pregnant with my son in 1975. And then I put it aside, and when I came back to it in the 2000s, I discovered the whole world had changed in quilting, and you could get pre-cut pieces, and if you got a sewing machine and could sew a straight line, you could make a quilt. And this is the one I made for my granddaughter Olivia. And it was as I was working on it, I discovered that I felt myself kind of going into a zone that I would start to feel who she was. And I felt like I was communing with her as I was making this quilt. And I was looking, she's at an age, she was turning 10 or 11. And so it's an age where she was sort of leaving childhood, going into young womanhood. And this butterfly pattern kept coming up. And it felt to me like it was very representative of where she was at as a young woman. And so, so this is the quilt I made for Olivia. Can you bring the next slide up, please? The next quilt was a quilt I made for my granddaughter Ava, who is older, and she's a dancer and loves shoes, and she was. I came across this fabric from the line called Free Spirit, and I just felt that was Ava. So I made this for Ava's birthday, and she was going into her teenage years, and so this is kind of a free form quilt that I made making triangles, squares out of fat quarters, and which is a type of pre-cut fabric you can get. And so this is Ava's Free Spirit quilt. Let me bring up the next one. This I thought I was making for myself because I loved the fabric. And this happens a lot when I'm making quilts, is that I'll make a quilt and I'm working on it and I think it's for myself, and it ended up being for my sister. And it was so obvious by the time I finished making the quilt that it was for her. And so what I wanted to say too is, while I make these quilts, I think I'm making them for a particular person, or maybe I've been ordered, a quilt has been ordered. And so I try to feel into the person who I'm going to make it for. I get whatever information I can get and tailor it to them as best I can. And then I find myself just thinking good thoughts and sewing that into the quilt. And so it honors a pattern that actually quilting has been through the centuries. That's the way that women have, in particular, men do somewhat, but also, but it's kind of a feminine artistic expression that is a way that we carry our love through the generations. And so I'm really loving having this. And so this is for my sister who's in Wyoming. The last slide. This one was for me. I got it. It actually remained for me too. It was made out of using there's strips. You can get jelly rolls, they're called. It's stripped strips that you sew together, and you sew them together and you cut them apart, and you sew them together and cut them apart, and you rearrange, and that sort of is symbolic of Parkinson's to me. It's like you pull something together, you do what you can do, and then things fall apart. You find a new level to move to, and you just surf the waves of Parkinson's. That's my kind of my theme right now. So my work is I do things by special order. I work best with no deadlines, and I think that my data is somewhere in the printout or the ad information, right?
Yes.
So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith.
Yeah.
Okay. Our final artist today is Landreth Hamill, and she's also a fiber artist, and she combines color and texture in the pieces that she will share with us today. Landreth, we'll wait on you to unmute and take it on.
Huh? How did that work?
Perfect.
Excellent. Hi, yes, I'm Landreth. Thank you so much for what you just shared. It's how we're living with our Parkinson's. And it's fun really hearing other people, because every one of us are dealing with it and living with it differently, and then it'll change up again. So that's part of what I wanted to do too, is I share with you with my art today. I live here in my studio. I'm on the coast. And yes, I'm a fiber artist. I was diagnosed 7 years ago. I work with many kinds of fibers and materials and tools, and I do all kinds of things to them, sometimes melting. As I show you my art, I want to share with you how my Parkinson's is affecting my creative life. The piece, the first piece, if you would, Libby. That piece hanging on the wall that you're looking at was rust dyed. The only color on that piece is rust. It's 9 feet by 4 feet. Next photo, please. What I am sharing first today are 3 dyed pieces. This one was made 5 years ago, and then there'll be another that was 3 years ago, and another again a year ago. This piece began as white cotton on a big flat piece of rusted iron metal. The metal was 10 feet by 4, and I prepped that metal outside, encouraging its rusting for almost a year at my lake home. Oh, that prep time gave me a chance to guide and to help create the best oxidation of the rusting with pattern possibilities. It's true, rust on metal cannot be controlled. Oh yes, it can be encouraged though. This piece is the 3rd in a series of 6. I stopped working on 3 years ago because I could no longer work the size due to my Parkinson's mobility issues. And that's a tough story. On that piece, the last long stroke I put on it was the pulled longer line. When you look at it, look at the center, and you'll see a line just in the middle off to the left that's kind of curved, and it goes to the left. As I'm saying this, I can feel the terror that I felt as it happened. You see, I was on the ground, the piece was on the ground, and I couldn't touch anywhere on that piece as I was working on it. I was bending over. My balance was dependent on my feet standing firmly outside. So as I pulled that line, I almost lost it and face planted. Next photo, please. It's our change up mobility. That was when I knew I was time to stop and I was done with this piece. A close-up of the sharp, clean lines. This is a close-up of the sharp, clean lines and the intense saturation of this piece. That's unusual with rusting. I enjoy the softer bits, the oven bits that are incorporated all over, and yet they seem to be independent and distinct on their own. Okay, next slide, please. This is a dyed piece that was also some Japanese ink added. I did it a couple years ago. It's 17 inches by 22. And with the additional lower fibers, it's 50 inches total from the top to the bottom. Okay, it started out white cotton again. The fibers below are deconstructed cotton netting that I dyed and then stiffened with the golden GAC 400 medium. It's a bit hard to see in this photo that where the fibers are attached, some are sewn up into the surface of the piece, both on the top and the bottom. Next photo. This is a close-up. And it's cropped smaller and it's turned on its side. Well, that's
Oh,
okay.
sorry.
It's all good. Don't worry about it. Maybe you can't see any of the fibers on the surface. That's where I was going for.
Right here,
Yes, good job.
up here.
At any rate, um, now I have great difficulty in doing that kind of hand stitching that I did 3 years ago. Okay, this is my lake home. Yes, underwater, seaweed, and it's the play of light. They're good memories. It's art for my heart. And it's been fun listening to all of you before, because all of us respond to what we've lived with and where we're living. If it's wood, it's stone. I mean, all of the things that we've talked about. For me, it's water. So next photo, Libby. This is another underwater. This one was 1 year ago. The one before I did 3 years ago. This is 12 by 12, also white cotton to start. I dyed this over a year ago, like I said, just as COVID was being discovered. Yes, it's the lake and spring and swimming and tadpoles. This size for dyeing is still an easy project for me, but I have changed too. Now I'm painting mostly with thread. I love my long arm sewing machine. It's a commercial sewing machine with 12-foot long rails. I've quilted a king size bed quilt on it. Quite a few actually, although that was quite a while ago. Now it's changed up. With my Parkinson's, I can sew differently with it. I can draw with it, with thread, at any size. So let me show you. Next slide. More recently, this is 9 inches by 14. Okay, think typewriting paper. I put it up on the wall so you can see its size. Next photo. Now you're going to know a little bit more about me. Okay. It's small. That's delicate net fiber that I melted and sculpted, which I love to do. And I added other fibers too. Okay, I am playing. This is a practice piece with the stitching. The background is heavily stitched with lots of little beads. This is only practice. Think of an artist who's painting a picture with a wipe cloth for the brush, or like stretching before you're walking and running, or scales before you're playing the piano. It's getting ready to do what you're going to do. And I'm trying out different stitching on this. If you look at, look at the penny and then compare it to the tiny circles at the top of the gold. That's me practicing. It's fun just for me. Okay, I'm going to move the screen that I'm on. So could you open up the screen to me, Libby?
I can, because that's the last slide. So
Did I miss the last slide?
yeah. And so now, if you're on speaker view, then when Landreth starts talking, then I'll go away and she'll appear nice and big.
Well, yes, that's fine. What's going to appear is what's on my wall instead of me. I'm in my studio and I'm close to my design wall. I'm sitting here, and what you're seeing now, it was so fun, Libby, your reaction to this. I have quilted a lot of art quilts, and this is the backside of one that I did a while ago. And it gives you an idea of how I can stitch now, because I'm using my long arm as for thread painting. It's hard, you know how it is. Some days the handwriting looks normal, and then you'll pick it up and write your signature and it's 1/4 of an inch high. Well, it's hard to paint on days like that. On the other hand, when I am on my long arm, it's interesting. My mobility becomes very fluid and I can still stitch. So at any rate, this is just a picture of what it's hanging. It's a quilt, the backside of a quilt hanging on my design wall right now. And like I say, I did it a little while ago. And you can get an idea what it's like when you stitch. Right now, what I am doing is a lot more evolved. Okay, hang on. I'm going to swing you around and then you'll get to see me. Hello. Yep. At any rate, 5 years ago today, it's been that long since the first quilt that's in back of me that you saw that I made. And my mobility has changed up so much, has really changed how I am able to quilt. Okay, at my last eye exam, my doctor reported that there is a tiny tremor in my eyes that never stops. This is probably normal for all of us, but I was not aware of it with Parkinson's. And yes, now I have my eyes checked a couple of times a year, so I'm sure that I'm safe to drive or to walk downstairs. I'm lucky to have worked with Mike Studer in Salem. Oh, he's an excellent neurological physical therapist. At any rate, he spoke at one of our state pro conventions a few years ago. Well, he helped me in many ways to refocus, to identify the change-ups, to find different ways to respond. And lots of this has been really applicable to my art life. The difference is with my art, I'm making it for me now. I'm not making it to sell or to do for others. And I've never done that before. That piece in back of me, I have not finished. And I intentionally haven't finished because I have a sense that if I do, I might either sell it or put it into a show. So at any rate, thank you, Libby.
Thank you, Landreth. Okay, so
Well-
what I want to do now is I want everyone to unmute so we can all have some applause, and then we'll go into some time for reception. And I am going to bring up the slides and have them playing in a loop, so you'll get a second opportunity to see everything, but we'll have a chance to talk.
Bravo.
Yeah. Very nice.
Nice. Very, very nice.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Beautiful.
Wonderful. Thank you.
This has been very inspiring.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, thank you all.
I love the stories that went with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and beautiful art.
Well, if I could ask a question, I'm curious with Dan, how do you make the texture on yours? It just really looks interesting.
Well, thank you. I use the Goldens. Makes a couple different mediums out there that I really like. Their fiber paste is phenomenal, and then I also use, using the palette knife, a professional grade, heavy duty gesso. And gosh, over the years, the technique is just evolved. From fine grained plaster of Paris, you name it.
Thanks. I was curious as to what it was.
And to you, I really, the work you're doing is phenomenal. Beautiful, I have to say.
Thank you. Work in progress, and it'll change up tomorrow, right, everybody?
Always.
I love your story, Judith. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I add something?
Sure.
I think that you all should be writers as well, if you're not already, because you describe yourselves,
Yes.
your process, and all of it so beautifully.
Absolutely.
I'm working
Thank
on I'm working on writing my memoirs. So,
I'm
Yeah.
thinking about writing mine. I haven't got very far. Thank you all.
Yeah, I have been taking notes. The press site 12. But yeah, it goes back quite a ways, definitely, all the way from pre-diagnosis, me making daily notes,
Yep.
not sure what's going on. I feel weird today. Yeah, it's crazy. A huge adventure.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, everybody, for the opportunity, and thank you especially to Judith. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question that I think is some of you addressed, but some of you kind of danced around it, which is really how you have had to adapt your art as your Parkinson's changes. And we saw some really big scale pieces, but I was really intrigued with the embroidery, and the fine hand, and how if you've had to modify your approach with the Parkinson's changes.
Well,
Constantly.
yeah, constantly is a good one. I would say for me, even right before being diagnosed, it was something I could sit down and feel calm while doing it. And it just kind of relaxed those tremors, of which I had no idea what they were. So that was kind of a calming thing. And some of my other art doesn't calm me as well. So this is one I've decided this is a stick to one because it does calm me.
It really is beautiful work.
I found for my Parkinson's, it's a physical too, but a lot of it is there's exhaustion some days, or I have to do the routine in order to stay balanced out. And that shouldn't happen right in the middle of a process or a project that I'm working on that would take me 6 hours if I would just get to play all the way through it. But resources is part of what I was talking about, and finding something I can draw with. I'm impressed, Tim, with your stones. I mean, that you're still using sauce, because I'm now at that point where I don't use anything that has hot fire to it. I'm now just using a heat gun. I'm impressed of the work that you're doing. It's really cool.
Thanks, Landreth. I could talk a little bit. My stones, I set them on where they want to be, and I scribe up the outline, and then I measure the depth, and I'm freehanding with a router. I kind of plow to the center and I ease. I definitely have to be very focused, and I can only do it for a little while. I can make the shake go away, but then it's back, and I have to go take a break and come back. Like you say, I could have plowed through this in an hour, but now it might take me all day. But I'm trying to just see each piece as its own special thing, and I don't need to hurry anymore.
Yeah, I can't work with deadlines. I find it just adds too much stress, and it aggravates my symptoms. So there's this finding this median somewhere where I can live, allow my life to flow in the way it wants to flow on any particular day. And because I don't know when my symptoms are going to be flaring, or when I'm going to have the strength to sit up in the chair long enough, or if I'm going to lose my posture so they can't manipulate the sewing machine, the cloth in the sewing machine. It's like a constant journey of letting go of what you think you can do and just showing up and seeing if it works today. It's really, I mean, one of the early signs of something was going on was when we were in Hawaii. I was in Hawaii and I was in a hula halau. We were making our costumes, and we were trying to sew a headband with flowers, and I couldn't get the flowers stitched in. My hand sewing just went to all fell apart, and I didn't understand what was going on. So then it's come back, and then it goes away again. So it's really, yeah. If you want,
how do you keep your stitching as consistent as it is? Have you run into that?
You know what? sometimes there's taking things out, or I don't, and what's sad is I don't sometimes do the same thing twice, but just to keep it, I don't know, I don't like that one or whatever, but I really haven't had that much problem with it. And I'm only 2 years into Parkinson's, but still, I think for the most part, I don't seem to have a problem. I think the calmer I feel, the better it goes.
Judith Lynn, I love the quilt you made for yourself. There's, it's amazing to me how much precision is in it and how ordered it is. It's a part of you that's there, even though if you can't access it all the time. But the fact that you could come up with a quilt that's so precise and the 8-pointed stars are just beautiful.
Thank you, really. The fabric came on a good day. So, and I was able to, everything came together to support my being able to make it. It was very delightful.
Yeah. And of course, I love the pansies on your quilt
I know.
all the flowers around it, but those got my attention. And I love the free spirit, the fact that the fabric was called Free Spirit.
Yeah. That's
Hi
what
there, Judith. It's Chris.
Chris, hi.
Hi. I don't think I've seen your work before. I know we've talked about it a bunch. So this is wonderful. Thanks for inviting me and everybody. And I wanted to comment on your, as a recovering perfectionist, I love what you said about, and others too, letting go of perfectionism and working when you can work for as long as you can work, or even just, not working. So, hey, more power to you all.
Just do something else.
Very beautiful work. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
think there are a lot of stitches that are, that I meant to do that. And just go with it.
If you do it 3 times, then it was on purpose, right?
There's some great life lessons for all of us with the comments you're making, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I scroll. No. If the gets
Whoops.
it from me.
Sam,
Yeah, I
we
just did
couldn't hear you. Your audio got choppy.
We're assuming
If-
that's not how Tim talks all the time.
a
No.
little bit go outside the line. I just grab a larger stone.
Ah, that's how you handle it. I hope you
No.
guys have also noticed the chat. There's been all kinds of comments about your work in the chat. It's been great to see all those comments, and there's also contact information for the artists that staff have been putting into the chat for you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're coming up on an hour, and I'm not cutting the conversation off, but I just wanted to thank everyone for coming. If anyone does need to jump off, again, thanks for coming to Parkinson's Resources of Oregon's second virtual art show. And if we keep having this type of response, we'll do it again. And I'm thinking there's some musicians who have joined us today. And that I'm thinking that in the spring or sometime next year that we might do something like this for musicians. So we'll keep expanding our creativity line of programming based on your response. And someone mentioned maybe we ought to have every other month or monthly group for creative types who want to get together that have Parkinson's and want to be able to keep this discussion going.
Thank you.
Kind of
Libby.
first Thursday Parkinson style at, that would be pretty cool, I think.
Yeah.
You know, Olivia, I was thinking as you were talking, remembering people who were on the art before. Okay, Trish Hassler, David Cutting. Thank you. I'm doing a Parkinson's thing right now, low energy. But at any rate, Sandy Hall, I saw you sitting there, Sandy. It would be fun maybe to have, you know, a beginning, submit just one piece that you've worked on, and we'd love to see them go by as we're talking, you know, a catch up kind of thing, and see how we have moved on and what we've done.
I would love to learn how to do what you guys do. I know how to play the piano, but you know, what you guys do is amazing. I just can't believe the colors and the shapes and the how you bring things to life. It's just really amazing.
Well, it's never too late to learn, right?
Sure.
We have a wealth of art classes and things like that.
True. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for sharing. Your work is beautiful and really impactful to hear your comments as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Wow. Nice. Very nice.
Thank you, Libby.
I have more questions. I know people are going to duck off, but I have questions. Tim, if your audio is working, do you forage like for your, I mean, where do you find your raw materials?
The stones are definitely from the coast, the driftwood as well. The tree people in Eugene bring me things when they cut something that looks interesting. I find.
And Rona, I was curious about those ravens.
Yes.
They're not colorful, and yet they're full of character. And wondering if they started out that way or if they've been a metamorphosis themselves.
They've actually always just been the little black birds. So something that I just think are fascinating. And if you know anything about ravens, if you start feeding them as colorful as their outside isn't, they start bringing you little treats. So they're very colorful birds on the inside. So it's interesting. But I have done some with flowers up the side too. So.
And Ben, are you
hear
still,
that at all?
still here? I know, Ben, you've been sharing some of your journey with Parkinson's. You've been actually very, very generous in letting people appreciate all that it means to live with Parkinson's, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I just wanted to say thank you for that. It's not always easy to expose yourself in that way. And your creative process, I think, also speaks to that. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. And you know, I think it's important for people to know. There's so many folks that don't understand what it's like to have Parkinson's or what it's like to be young. I mean, I was only, gosh, I presented when I was 39 and diagnosed and retired at 42. You know, so, but thank you. You know, it's been a great and amazing journey, ups and downs, right?
But it's like you wrote, Ben, that was the beginning of something. It wasn't the end.
Yeah.
Really like what you wrote because it made sense for me. I mean, I've changed up as a person and I'm okay. I really enjoy what I am now and where I'm going. But it'll change again tomorrow. Just like, oh.
Right. Well, I think, you know, that's, and thank you. But it is, you know, every day is a challenge and, you know, you just choose today. I'm going to win. I'm going to take all the stars, all the gold coins, and I'm going to dance a parade. And then maybe tomorrow I'm just going to sleep. You know, you never know.
So is everybody ready for the holidays?
Yeah, right.
Landra, if you're making, you're gonna make homemade gifts for us all. Is
Get
that
right
the
on that.
obligation?
The check's in the mail.
I'll make that commitment, but I won't commit as to when you will get them.
Well, thanks, everyone. I think that we're kind of at a good point to close. So appreciate that you took the time out to come celebrate these artists with us this year and stay connected to us. We have a sing-along next week, holiday sing-along. So that's something that you can do for the holidays next Thursday, I think at 2. You need anything, give us a call. That's why we're here. And seriously, if we want to have some type of creative circle group, if we want to get that going, just be in touch with us and let us know. Yeah, we can do that. All right.
You've
That
always
sounds
said-
wonderful. Thank you so much.
Libby.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody, for coming. I really, really appreciate, especially my peeps that are all here. Just thank you.
We're glad to support you.
Thanks for coming.
Bye-bye.
Later.
Bye-bye.